Good day, my friends. Today we are talking about what is a decimal. And let's start by defining a decimal. It is one or more digits to the right of a decimal point. Okay, so keeping that in mind that a decimal is one or more digits to the right of a decimal point, let's talk about what a place value chart is. If you remember way back at the start of the year, we made a place value chart where, let's draw a line here and a line here, and these would be our ones. Next, we would have our tens. Then we would have our hundreds and so on. And we'd be going in that direction. Well, now we're going to imagine that our decimal point is right after our ones. And we're going to be looking at the place values to the right of the decimal point. And right here, we have something called tenths. Okay, after that decimal point, we have tenths. I'm going to have to try to write this small. Here we have hundredths. And it's very important that you're hearing me say those THs on the end there, because tenths and hundredths are different than tens and hundreds. They are much, much smaller. So keep in mind that I'm pronouncing the TH on those words very strongly for a reason. So the decimal point separates the ones from the tenths. Or when we're talking about money, it separates dollars from cents. Okay, that's important to remember too. All right, so I'm going to put this paper aside for a minute. And my next question for you is, what is a tenth? Okay, a tenth is 10 equal parts of a whole. So if I drew a whole, and let's make it a square, or close to a square anyway. I know that's not perfect. And I'm going to divide it as carefully as I can into 10 equal parts. I know they're not exactly equal, but let's pretend they are, okay? 1/10 is one of those parts. So that is 1/10. If I were to color 2, that would be 2/10. If I were to color 3, that would be 3/10. If I were to write that as a decimal, 1/10 would look like that. Now let's think about that place value chart I drew on the last page. Okay, so I have my dot, my ones, tens, and hundreds. And then remember on this side, I have my tenths with my TH and my hundredths. And I'm putting my TH on the end. I know that's kind of hard to see. If I were to write that on a place value chart, that would be my 1/10. Notice it's in the 10th column and my dot is before it. Okay? So that is what 1/10 looks like. Now, let's talk about hundredths when we're talking about decimals. And decimals and fractions are directly related. And I'll try to be a little bit bigger with my place value chart this time. So a hundredth is 100 equal parts of a whole. All right. So if I were to draw a square again, and you might think it would take a long time to draw 100 equal parts, but it really doesn't. Okay, I'm going to do my 10 equal parts to start. I don't know if you can hear the dogs growling, but sorry about that if you do. All right, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal parts. I just do the same thing going in this direction now. And again, they're not perfect, but we know that there are 100 parts there. So hundredths is when you break one whole into 100 equal parts. 1/100th is just one of those teeny tiny little parts. And as a fraction, we'd write that as 1/100th. Now, if I did it on a place value chart, and I'm going to use a different marker this time, I'm going to make my place value chart a little bit bigger. Oh, these dogs are acting up. Okay, we know that this is our ones. These are our tens. And these are our hundreds. Okay, I'm going to put my decimal point there. Now, this would be the tenths. And this would be, I'm going to write small but neat, hundredths with the TH. So if I was going to write 1/100th, I would put my decimal point. I would write my 1 under the hundredths place, but I need to hold that tenths place. So I'd put a 0 there. So when you're writing the decimal 1/100th, you need to write it with the 0 in the tenths place. So, and that's actually true from all the numbers in 1/100th. So 1/100th, 2/100ths, 3/100ths, all the way up to 9/100ths. You need to make sure that you put a 0 in the tenths place, because if you don't, it would not be a 100th, it would be a tenth. So you'd write 2/100ths like that, 3/100ths like this, 9/100ths like this. Okay, once you get up to 10/100ths, you don't have to hold that spot anymore. And you'll also probably find it interesting to see this. Go back to the 1/10th. If we do that, we have 10/100ths. 1/10th and 10/100ths are actually the same value. Check it out. I'll show you on the picture I have here too. There's 1/100th. If I color in 10 of those 100ths like this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10/100ths. Doesn't it look almost the same as that 1/10th? So those are actually equivalent. Okay, so let's do a few conversions from fractions to decimals. I'm going to start with the number 6/10ths. Okay, I am going to draw my tenths. I try to make my whole as neat as possible. It's not always easy, but it's not terribly hard either. All right, so there is my whole 6/10ths. When I write it as a fraction, I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/10ths. That's what I'm talking about right there. When I write it as a decimal, I'm going to, I'm not going to write out the whole place value chart, but I'm going to kind of draw a quick, maybe if I can do this, I'm going to do ones, tens, hundreds, and then tenths and hundredths. You see the THs there? Okay, so I have 6/10ths. I'm going to find my tenths place. I'm going to write my 6 there, make sure I have my decimal point, and I'm good to go. That is how I convert. I don't necessarily have to draw this picture, but it sometimes helps me understand better what I'm doing. Okay. The next number I'm going to take a look at is a hundredths number. So I have 27 hundredths. If I were to draw my whole, I would have to divide it in 10 equal lines both ways. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I have to do it going in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 27 hundredths. So I can kind of fast forward through the drawing here. Here's 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 hundredths is what I have shaded in there. Okay? If I were to make the place value chart again, and I like to put the ones, tens, and hundredths there, just ones, tens, and hundreds, just kind of as a reference point because we work so much with those. So there's our ones, tens, and hundreds. Here's our tenths and our hundredths. Okay, and I have 27 hundredths. Now, since this is above numbers 1 through 9 in the hundredths, I can write it starting in the tenths and ending in the hundredths. So if it's a hundredth, the last digit of the number is in the hundredths place. So that is how I would write 27 hundredths. Okay, the next one I'm going to do without a picture to go with it. All right, let's get a brighter color too. Okay, so this next one I am going to do 3 tenths. Now in my head, I'm picturing one whole divided into 10 equal parts and shading in 3 of them. I know if I have a place value chart, and I have my ones, my tens, and my hundreds, then I have my tenths and my hundredths. I have 3 tenths. I'm going to go right to my 10th place. I'm going to bring my 3 there. And that is how I would write 3 tenths. Okay. What about 95 hundredths? Okay. I'm going to just kind of use this place value chart again, so I don't have to keep drawing it. My decimal point is here. So I have 95 hundredths. I want to find my hundredths place. I'm going to write my last digit first, and then I'm going to move over and write my other digit. 95 hundredths is what it would look like as a fraction. What if someone said you have 87 cents? Okay. When we are talking money, the decimal point separates full dollars from cents. So you could simply write 87 cents just like that. And usually you'll put a dollar sign before it like that. Could even put a $0.87. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how you take a fraction with a denominator of 10 or 100 and you convert it into a decimal. Feel free to rewatch the video if you are struggling at all with this. Draw pictures, make place value charts, and do your best work. Thanks a lot.